Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Road to Grandmaster series. This is episode number 5. And in this series, I am taking you through my return to competitive chess as I am climbing toward the highest title on the 64 squares. Now, so far, in the first 4 episodes, I've recorded a bunch of different game analysis against very strong players on chess.com, taking you through my struggles, taking you through my successes as well. And I also uploaded a chess lesson that I did with my coach, Latvian Grandmaster Artūrs Neiksans. And you guys loved it. You loved it so much that it inspired today's massive announcement. So if you clicked on this video, you are about to get one of the biggest announcements ever on the GothamChess YouTube channel. And then we will get into episode number 5. And the announcement is that starting today, I am launching a Patreon page where you can get ridiculous levels of access to all the training that I am doing. At the fan level, you will get all of the footage of the lessons. You will get behind the scenes training footage like training games and homework. And I will be doing many, many different puzzles from books and from online websites, and I will be explaining them to you. You can pause here and take a closer look. The second tier has all sorts of other things. I will do Q&A sessions with you guys, the fans, vlogs, photos of my life. You'll get early access to things and so on and so forth. And obviously the Grandmaster tier is a tier of its own where I will do curated game reviews of games that you send me and so on. Listen, people have been asking for stuff like this a lot. They've been asking for like, hey, how do I get a little bit more chess access? How do I get a little bit more? This is the way. This is the way. And I hope a lot of you enjoy. The first full-length chess lesson is up there. I have like 4 more on the way. I am going to record a bunch more training sessions where I'm playing games, where I'm solving puzzles and more. So if you've ever wanted to support the channel in this kind of way, getting behind-the-scenes access to myself for chess, life, and so on, this is the way to do it. And I appreciate you all very, very much. You will be a part of this Road to GM journey. And without further ado, here is another chess lesson that I did where we went in depth analyzing positions with Grandmaster Artūrs Neiksans. Oh, and one more thing. If you want to support Artūrs or anybody that I work with in the future, outside of paying them for hourly chess lessons multiple times a week, you should definitely check out Artūrs' courses on Chessable, for example, and his YouTube channel. So now let's get into the games.
Should you retreat with the bishop on e3 or sacrifice on d6?
I suppose the first question I would also ask, because I do not exactly remember the circumstances, I would just say, like, can I take on e5? So something like bishop e5, if queen e5, d e5. Unfortunately, neither bishop h3 or bishop b7 work because of this ridiculous move bishop d7. And then I guess I have to trade rooks, and I mean, I would have to see if there's anything worth playing in that endgame. And also, on top of that, there's also just d e5 in the very beginning. I would probably calculate that position for a minute or two, like some sort of queen a4 stuff. I don't know, even just some like rook d8. The rook is protected. There's no discovery anymore. Now, maybe I will have some problems in the future. Yeah, so then cd or something like retreating the bishop.
You know, I feel I have to add here a bit. Which maybe I should have done at the very beginning. How do you evaluate your position? Because from this, I think it really might depend what you are gonna do next.
I mean, yeah, first instinct says I should be at least a little bit better. I don't know, I feel like I have all the pressure, but it could be an illusion. I mean, yeah, black could be like one moment away from just completely holding on, trading some pieces, activating, opening, activating.
I think that very often, I think that next time I'm going to start with this question, how do you evaluate your position? Because very often our course of action, what do we do next? It really depends how we feel about the position. If we feel we are, let's say the position is unclear or we're slightly worse, we tend to make different decisions. If we feel that we have a much better position, we tend to make different kind of decisions, right? So here you are saying you feel you are at least slightly better, probably slightly better. Yeah, so it's not going to be too far off. But the question is, what do you think? What forms this evaluation? And I thought that maybe we could work on this, by the way, evaluating positions. This is one of my absolute favorite topics. So we jump between the games every 5-10 moves here and there, and we give assessment, at least try to give an assessment according to an engine, because engines obviously were created by people. and you have to teach them something about how to evaluate. And very often at least in my own games, I am thinking in terms of how to evaluate a position like an engine. So what I'm seeing here, there are several elements that I can immediately say that are invites favor. So first, we have far more active pieces. Yeah, so the rook on b8 is super annoying for black. We have some wonderful pieces as the queen on d4, the bishop on f4, the bishop on g2, really awesome pieces. His bishop on c8, rook on e8 are pretty passive. The knight on e5 cannot really compensate. On top of that, the pawn on g5 just weakened the king. So he has also multiple weaknesses at the queen side. The queen side pawns a5, a7, c7, maybe let me just mark them.
Yeah, I was just gonna, yeah.
So this, I think, accumulates together. I mean, engines, they think like that typically. So let's say one of the small advantages, they accumulate to something like 0.5 approximately. So let's say we have the active rook on b8, 0.5. We have the bishops on f4 and g2, 0.5. We have multiple weaknesses in our opponent's camp, another 0.5. And it usually stacks together. And I think it's something like, in terms of the computer language, 1.5. But of course, I mean, the position tends to be very concrete. And specifically here, maybe this g5 changes something. And if we go back a move before, you just played, I think it was c5 and rook b8, rook b8, c5 a move before, and your opponent tries to change something. He feels he's in trouble. So he tries to change something, he plays g5. And I think that this background here is quite important because I have a rule. The rule is as follows. We avoid doing funny business in great position. So if I have fantastic position, and I think this is a fantastic position, I don't see a forced win, but you have all the positional pluses, I try not to complicate at all, right? I already think that I have enough weaknesses at my opponent's camp. I have an open position. I have the bishops. The pawn on g5 in the long run also is going to be a weakness. So if I could choose, then I would choose something which keeps the positional benefits of this position.
So I don't even think.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, bishop e3, I think this is the correct move. So after bishop e3, we keep all the positional gains. But again, you know, it's quite interesting how a human's mind works. Because, for example, you're calculating bishop e3, and you're like, wait, I mean, there's d-takes on c5, right? Queen c5 and knight e7. Oh, okay, I cannot do that. I mean, what else is there? You know, it's so easy that we very quickly cross out the line just because we saw the first difficulties. So here after bishop e3, d-takes on c5, now that you look at this position with fresh eyes, you see, obviously, I mean, the pawn on c5 is not really that critical, and I'm sure you can find some other great moves here.
Yeah, also, I mean, if I really want to, I'm just, like, this is very hypothetical, but at the very least, I could have some sort of, like I can get the rook.
It's great that you mentioned this, Levy. You know, I just want to show you this line. So if you look at this line, once again, I would like to hear an answer from you. So indeed, queen b5 is a move. So what do you think about this line? So queen b5, a6. Okay, queen a4 is the move, of course, but let's say we play rook c8.
Yeah, rook c8.
8x on b5, rook e8. Obviously, king c7 is bishop d4, knight f8. Bishop c5. I'm sorry that I'm moving these pieces on the board, but I just want to illustrate this line. So queen takes on c3, a bishop takes on f8, bishop h6, mate idea. Yeah. Obviously, black gives a check on a1 to disconnect the bishop. So bishop f1, yeah, h5. Now, do we go here or do we seek something else?
Like from the original position?
Yeah, because this is kind of forced. You give an assessment at some point. You draw a line because you can't calculate this very unlimited. So at some point you need to like stop, and I draw a line right here. So maybe make a couple of more moves. You draw a line and you try to assess the position.
I mean, I guess I have a choice of whether to win this pawn, or play bishop d6, king h7, looking for some sort of checkmate. Okay, I would not be confident this is a win. I feel like it still requires a lot of precision. That would be my evaluation. I mean, I don't know how to deal with like these one of these two pairs of pawns, and I feel like an engine might figure out how to win this with white, but I don't know if I would be able to figure out how to win this with white, or if it's winnable at all.
That is a very good answer. You know, maybe somebody is going to disagree. For example, engine here says you have to play bishop c5, e3, bishop d4, not even take the pawn on g5. But I mean, that's an engine. Black wins the third pawn. So you're essentially racing against the opponent's.
Oops.
What happened here? Sorry.
Sorry.
So what happened? What happens in this line is that you're essentially entering some sort of a race, and I think that at this moment you are again going back to the original thought. Am I the dominating player here? Am I having the much better position? Because I recall the rule, no funny business in a great position. So even though all of this is so really nicely looking, I mean, this rook c8, cool idea, sacrifice the queen, this is great content. Sometimes I also play myself, I'm thinking I'm making very interesting content, but is this objectively the best I can do? And I think that my first and foremost goal here is to win the game. So I just want to win the game. I have these great pieces here. So maybe instead of queen takes on c5, even this entire line is so tempting. Actually, if we talk about this line, of course, I can still play queen a4.
Right, that was my original idea. But then I saw rook c8, so I was very... I was like, oh, I'm so smart.
Yeah, rook c8, yeah. So, I mean, it's the lesson here is that you don't fall for beautiful combinations just because they are there. So you remain objective that your position is simply too good at the very beginning. And I think that you don't want to enter two beautiful, fancy combinations just because they are there, because you are slightly risking. And I did not give you the title of the homework for purpose. It's so that you are solving these like normal puzzles, but I didn't tell you that the title of the homework is avoid unnecessary complications. so
Yeah.
that was the idea.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think it's a good framework, especially because I probably spent like 15-20 minutes in that position, and if I use this framework of no funny business, then I can play queen a4 or bishop e3 in 2 minutes, and yeah, just quickly understand that I'm fine and I will win the game slowly rather than winning it right now. Should I click on the second?
Sure. Here the question was, will you push h6 here? So I'm not going to click it. I'm going to wait. Okay, I'm not going to also move it because it's going to reveal maybe some information. So are you going to push h6 here? Do something else. And the question is, why would you even consider a choice between h6 and do something else? But again, I feel that we have to evaluate. So we give proper assessment of the position, and it's going to really impact what we are going to do next.
It definitely feels like a strong advantage for white.
How strong?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to decide. Like plus 1.2 maybe? I mean,
Yeah, that's nice.
What?
That's nice, yeah. Like very, very plus 1.2, yeah.
I just, I mean, no, I'm trying to use our formula. I mean, okay, kings are, yeah, I would say there's less danger for my king, but I don't think there's a huge amount of danger for the black king either necessarily. I mean, okay, h6, trade queens, and that will be that. But I think in the long run, d5 will be weak. I can put both knights on f4, double on the e file. I will probably need to play the move b3 just to stop rook c4, but maybe I don't even have to do that. And it's almost a dream position. It might just be a dream position.
Yeah, it is. I can't even imagine a better position than this, to be honest. After the opening, IQP, bad bishop on e6, space advantage at the king side, better pieces. So this is what I call a dominating position. The same rules apply as we previously discussed, no funny business.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand what about h6 could be some funny business. I mean, obviously, I don't have to do that. I can, well, my first idea was to trade the queens and play knight f4. Unfortunately, I think that runs into bishop takes g4, which would be a nice thing to but I don't have to play knight f4 immediately. I mean, I can play something
You mean you
else.
take on c7?
Yeah. I just wanted to improve my position, but then there is back rank checkmate. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I want to put my knight on f4. There is no threat in the position.
Do you really think this is such a forcing position where you like have to do something immediately, like in 2 moves? If you miss your chance in 2 moves, that's it. You're never gonna win this game.
No, I'm just trying to think like how to improve. I'm just thinking. Okay, yeah, like if I was to calculate h6, obviously black has to take on f4. I think so. h6, queen f4. I guess I could start calculating knight takes f4, g takes h6, like now I'm down a pawn, but I'm just gonna stop there because I don't understand why I would do that. So h6, queen f4, hg, king g7, knight takes back on f4. There's maybe, I mean, no, actually bishop g4 there doesn't work, but I don't know. I mean, I've imbalanced the pawn structure. I kind of, maybe black now has some counterplay. I don't know if h6, queen f4, hg calculates as like, not calculates, constitutes as funny business. I can't, I mean, I'm kind of creating two weaknesses. I'm breaking apart black's structure a little bit.
Okay, I mean, now I'm going to ask you. So you're sitting here with black. You're desperate. Your position is so bad. You have no counterplay. And your opponent decides to kill you on the spot and plays h6. So you see that the first rank of white is weakened. I think if I'm sitting here with black, this is what I want. I want some change in the position. Otherwise, my position is sad. That any type of counterplay will be like a fresh breath for my position. So here after h6, queen f4, you said h takes on g7, and you're right. Indeed, after king takes on g7, knight f4, bishop g4, that will be like a back rank mate on b1, but white can just play rook g1, and that's it. Yeah, so white is winning a piece. But here's this thing: we don't have to take on g7, so black can play king g8. Now after knight f4, bishop takes on g4. White still keeps the advantage, but the question is, why do we need this?
King g8, and then yeah, instead of taking on g7. I see. Yeah, this is yeah, because I guess it's easy to convince yourself that here white is still doing well and you didn't do anything wrong.
I agree. I mean, you ruined his pawn structure. He cannot take on g4. Right. But when it comes to such a moment where you are weakening the first rank for no good reason, I don't think that this h6 is so really groundbreaking in this position that we can't live without it. So if I'm playing h6, I'm thinking like, if I'm not going to play h6, then it's going to be very difficult for me to win the game. So I'm ruining his pawn structure. And if I'm not doing this, then it's going to be very difficult. I see no need to do this. That's what I'm saying. So, for example, this is what happened in the game, by the way. So
no, I saw, yeah, but I'm trying to understand the difference then between like the best waiting move for white, because waiting moves can be b3, rook g1. I mean, I just realized I think rook e3 is like losing tactically to this, and bishop g4. No.
Yeah, but you don't need to do that, obviously.
Right. No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I have to be a little careful. So then I started thinking of more confrontational waiting moves, like a3. To maybe weaken the structure, but then I'm still giving black maybe the a file. So
why are you not considering the queen trade?
I don't know. I guess it's just, I guess I'm not considering it because it seems like black will have to do it himself. Otherwise, I will play h6, and that will be very scary. So I guess, for example, like, now I will go here, and this looks actually like a much different story.
So you're pinning your hopes on h6 after all?
No, I was just like, my point is that black is gonna have to take my queen at some point regardless, because I can't really see a move otherwise. I mean, if you don't, I will play h6 with my queen on f4, and so I kind of figured like black has to go here anyway, so I might as well make a waiting move.
I see.
Yeah, I guess it's like black is the one that has to trade queens. That's sort of mentally what I assumed, because I didn't see any way that black could move the queen to a7 or b6 and create some sort of attack. So that's why I would play b3.
Okay, and if you think about a bit further, so let's say the queens are off the board. Where does your game lie? Approximately, what are you going to do? So for example, black plays h6 himself. He stops your g5. I mean, what do you do? What's going to be your focus? Which rule, or okay, maybe not the rule. What kind of feeling is going to drive you further here? What do you have to do here?
Yeah, I probably have to target d5 on the queen side.
Really well protected. I mean, he has the knight, the bishop. He can have easily two rooks. The pawn on d5, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to get to.
I guess I didn't really mean that I would win it per se, but just like I would have a knight on f4. I would have, I would put my knight on f4. I would maybe double on the d file. Like I would always pressure it so that black can't really move away. But I guess, yeah, I mean, when you say it like that, I mean, if black plays just hypothetically h6, then I'm gonna really wish that the pawns on the queen side didn't defend each other. So I'll probably have to play a3 or b3. A3 or c3 to weaken them.
Which brings us to the question, why do you play b3 in the first place? If you want to play a3, because if you play a3 before b3, then the rook on d3 still guards it. You're creating weaknesses. But then I roll back to what you said. You said that after a3, you are potentially opening the a file, which might benefit for your opponent to organize some counterplay. And hence we get to the answer, why would you want to take on c7?
So
that's the point. Yeah.
I see.
So you are creating a weakness on b4. I think this is a potential two weakness rule. Your opponent has one weakness, which is the pawn on d5. And what you're trying to do, you're trying to create a second weakness. And your knight on d4 stands really nice. I think it's quite difficult for you to win the pawn on d5. So just leave it there. He has these easy targets at the queen side that you can target. If he had those pawns, for example, standing on b7 and a6, we would have a completely different story. Yeah, I would be thinking about how do we create another weakness, but we already have it right here. His pawns are too far stretched at once to the queen side, and I think this pawn on b4 makes it as a very easy target. And by the way, by making this move a3, you are killing two birds with one stone. You're dealing with the back rank issues. You're dealing with bishop takes on g4, and maybe your move of h6 is still going to work. That's why I think that the logic here was that you were a bit too focused on this move h6. And something that was holding you back was this unwillingness to take on c7, just because, you know, I don't want to take on c7, you take on f4, right? Because you're going to activate my knight. But I don't think that this is really such a critical difference. He takes it or you take it. And by the way, the queen takes on c7 move is not even top choice of an engine, but the difference is really small, really small. And you just trade on c7 to have simpler position so that there's no counterplay. For example, you don't think about this, you play a3, you're correct. For example, black would just reject perhaps the queen trade, and now you suddenly have to deal with the counterplay at the queen side.
Yeah, I'm studying the position, so after, like, let's say takes a3, I need to change my psychology a bit, because I look at a position like this and right away it's very different. When I play a move like h6, psychologically, although flawed, I think I'm so close to a win, and it's wrong. And then what's funny is that if I take and play a3, I think, how the hell am I going to win this position? Like, I don't know how, you know, black is just going to consolidate. Why did I trade queens? So I start looking at this. I mean, obviously it's bad to take because this is a much easier pawn to target, and also my pawns will probably crash through easier. But then I start thinking, okay, like what if black plays h6, right? So then I'm thinking, okay, maybe take, and then right here I start doubting myself. I don't know how to proceed. I don't know how to win this position. Black is going to put the rook on c4. Where is my play? Black's going to bring the knight to c5. Like, I don't know what I would do next after taking on c7 and then playing a3. So it would be useful to kind of understand, like, when you get here, what's in your head? I mean, what are you thinking is next?
I would be probably the happiest person in the world. I mean, this is my bread and butter position, basically. I mean, absolute favorite IQP positions with a beautiful knight on d4, with bishop on e6, and no counterplay whatsoever.
So how would you proceed? I'm curious. Like,
how would I proceed? First, I think that do I want to take on b4 right away, or don't I want to take on b4? But I would improve my pieces, because I think there's no need for you to force things. I would maybe set up a couple of rules. For example, I never want to trade my knight for the bishop on e6 unless it's really necessary. Yeah, so I'm going to keep my knight on d4 no matter what. Possibly I'm ready to trade the knights. Maybe, I don't really mind it. And definitely I want to keep at least one pair of rooks on the board. So why one pair of rooks on the board is necessary? So that if we have two rooks on the board, there always might be some sort of a counterplay with an open file, some pressure. We keep at least one rook on the board, then it's easier to use this rook to generate targets. Yeah, I think already here we have them. So I'm not sure. I would be thinking about, can I take on b4 immediately, or maybe just start by improving the pieces? So let's start with rook g1. There's no need to rush. Let's have a lot of patience. Let's say rook g1. Black also tries to improve his pieces. He plays, I don't know, something like rook b8 maybe. I could potentially improve my king as well. King c1, go closer to the center. He's going to control a lot of squares. Oh, sorry, I forgot I cannot click. So king c1. Let's say black does the same. King g8, I take on b4, I'm not sure, rook b4, a takes on b4, I get the king on d2, he probably takes over the a file, then I'm thinking maybe I put my knight on f4, create a weakness, this is a weak pawn, weak bishop on e6, this is a weak pawn on b4. Essentially, I think it's a two weakness rule. So the pawn on b4 is weak. The bishop on e6 is weak. There are some potential threats with g4, g5 in the air. And when your opponent has to defend two weaknesses at the same time, it's really difficult. And I'll just be patient. I'm not gonna rush. But I think this is the patience that we talked about. That this is what is necessary. That you are inside. You are very calm. You are not like rushing. You don't have to finish this game like in half an hour. Just enjoying this very nice, pleasant position. You know you are grinding it out with no risk. And in the worst case of scenario, you're not going to win it. Okay, then you're not going to win it. It's completely fine. Sometimes we get these positions, although, of course, I know that you like to play more dynamic.
No, I mean, it's very, I mean, like, for example, this king walk to d2 has just never, absolutely never crossed my mind. But I was also looking, after taking on b4 in just this hypothetical conversation, I was thinking, why do I even, I mean, I don't have to do that. Because, am I correct in saying like ba3, rook a3 is perfect for white, but ab4 is not as perfect? Like, to me, it's very intuitive. At least I think it's very intuitive. This is a much better version of what can happen.
Probably,
right?
Because you're going to get the king on d2. I think you need to activate a king. Okay, maybe c3, king c2. I'm not entirely sure. Of course, we keep a close eye on black's counterplay because you look at the knight on f6, it's really ridiculous. Probably,
yeah, which is why I'm scared of this stuff, but I guess there's nothing to be scared of. It's just
yeah, it's just you always play b3. That's why I don't like this c3 move, because with a pawn on c2, I think if I play b3, then my queen side is a bit easier to keep together. So I would probably try to get the king on d2, rook g1, rook a1, and try to press the pawn on a5. There's no need to rush. Yeah, just maybe this is also where you could greatly improve, that you are more willing to make these patient, slow improving moves, that you don't have to crush the opponent very quickly. All right, let's select the next game.
I remember this game too. Yeah. Would I take on f7? Did I take on f7 in the game?
Yeah, you did.
Holy crap, that is a crazy move.
You played knight f7 and rook e6. This is what you played.
Yeah, wow. So I played knight f7, king f7, rook.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like this is the chess lover. But...
yeah, I was trying to, play like Tal.
But I think you even won the game, by the way.
Yeah, I did, but I remember I was worse for sure. But yeah, this tournament wasn't bad. I won a couple of games. But okay. Yeah, the alternative is finding a plan for white. I mean, queen h3 looks pretty nice.
No, you're still going for this knight f7.
Yeah, but that's like the first candidate move. Alternatively,
but if I may, what do you think could help you to get to the right decision? Because I think that you need to formulate what are the resources for your potential attack. So you have the knight on e5. Queen on h4, bishop on d3, rook on e1. Is there something else?
Sorry, I was calculating.
Yeah. What I was saying is that are you ready for an attack? I mean, you're thinking, okay, I have every single piece basically I have here positioned at the potential king set attack, and maybe you are thinking of ways to get even more pieces in the attack for much less cost. Because when you play knight f7 and rook e6, this is a gigantic sacrifice. I mean, you're sacrificing total of 7. It's not even a piece. It's not even the rook. It's 7. Yeah, it's like, I mean, there has to be like, I don't know. I mean, something like mind-boggling. But again, I mean, it's very tempting, especially if you have seen some Tal's games. But You gotta resist the temptation.
Yeah, so I mean, I know from experience, just vague experience, like d5 is always a major idea in these types of positions because yeah, okay, I guess I spoiled it. I was just trying to make it without clicking. Yeah, because you activate your dark squared bishop and you kind of shut out the other one. So, I mean, I just very quickly, I took a look, like if knight d5, there's just queen h5, I think, which is very strong. You attack f7, I think it's just lost for black. Completely lost, actually. I mean, I don't see any move. Knight f4, queen f7.
That looks like a mate immediately on g7.
So I guess the only move I really have to calculate here is ed5, because everything else is probably also losing. I don't see it. So ed5. And I mean, I can tell you I 100% looked at this in the game, but I probably just didn't see what I play here. And I probably have to play, I mean, I can't play d5 in the game. So let's say like d5, ed5. And there's just a moment there, like, where I have to calculate and see if I am actually in time with anything.
But I have a question. Are you looking for a forced win here?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably like I'm incorrect, but like I would never calculate d5, ed5, cd5. I would never, because I mean, I guess black just plays bishop takes and I am just a pawn down. Maybe there's ed5, bishop f5.
But then in the best case scenario, you are winning in exchange for a pawn.
Yeah, and I don't think this is that great. I mean, I don't. Not to mention, there's probably just rook a8 or something. But no, yeah, I would just be calculating a forced win. But okay, ed5. I mean, I guess I would calculate knight g4. I mean, I'm calculating knight g4 or knight f7. Those are probably my, or bishop f5. Those are my.
But here's the problem, and you actually already noted it yourself, that after some slower moves, black has the move d4. So after d5, e takes in the d5, let's say knight g4, you still have to account for d4. So he's going to close your bishop, and you put yourself in a position where you have to like do something right away. And again, I think this is a very good moment when you can make a second mistake in a row. Like, okay, whatever, let's burn. Yeah, so knight x on h6.
Yes, exactly. I was calculating that. Yeah. But I didn't see anything. I mean, I can't get my rook in, so I would probably just reject this. And I don't have a mate. So
yeah, it's very slow. So you can assume that black is going to have something. Okay, I mean, I would still try to calculate something, but if I don't have like the threat in two moves, then probably something is terribly wrong with my position.
Yeah, just queen c6 and here probably, right?
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, so you found it like in 10 seconds immediately. But that's why I would go back here to this moment and ask yourself, why would you discard c takes on d5? Because it's a pawn, but it does activate your bishop on b2.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I maybe knowing somewhere in the preparation or like model games that this is doable would make things easier. It just feels so tough to lose a central pawn.
But yeah, you have no issues to sacrifice the bishop and the rook.
I know. But the knight and the rook. Yeah, the knight and the rook.
d5 pawn. This is
I know. No, but so is I mean, the best move is bishop d5, right? I guess because rook d5 seems to walk into, I mean, at least bishop c4, but.
Yeah, rook d5 is at least bishop c4, and then after rook d1, white can even play rook d1. So if I may, so for example, rook d5, bishop c4, here, maybe there's even no need to rush. Yeah, I just take it here, and I have such a beautiful activity of my pieces. On something like rook f8, I see knight g6, I see knight e7, I see all kinds of ideas for one pawn. Yeah, it's a very little price. So you're right, indeed. This is probably not good. Knight e5 for bishop d5, probably bishop d5. And, you know, my logic just says, listen, I have two bishops, the queen, the knight, the rook, looking at the king. It just feels there could be something here, even if I don't see it immediately.
But you wouldn't stop your calculation here.
No, I wouldn't. I would... Now, I mean, here what I would try to do, I think I would like spot d5 immediately, just like you did, because it's such a thematic move. I open up the bishop. After d5, again, I think from my opponent's perspective, if I do this, I mean, what my opponent is going to do? Knight e5, queen h5, as you already said. If he does something else, I don't care, right? I have a lot of promising moves like d takes on e6. So I assume he's going to take it. Then, of course, like you already said, I would be looking for some kill shot, like maybe now knight f7 works, maybe knight g4 works. But then I notice my opponent is going to play d5, d4. So I think, okay, I have to take on d5. It's only a pawn. And again, I calculate some forcing moves like knight e5 from d5. And then eventually I decide probably he's going to play bishop takes on d5. And from afar, I try to get at least some sort of, this is what I call my minimal program, my minimal move. If everything fails, I have at least this. So what could be this minimal continuation here? I'm thinking it could be knight g4 because it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I have seen many games like this. I think you have to say goodbye to this. Yeah, this type of you're gifting so many points like this. I mean, some of the games you win, but this just unnecessary, unnecessary.